Hello everyone, welcome to Manifest IAS and you are watching Current Jokes. These are the crispest current affairs that we can get. And this is the continuation of our first leg of Current Jokes that we had done in the month of April and May that had covered 1 year's current affairs, that too with crispness and more relevance to the UPSC Civil Service Preliminary Examination. So this is a continuation of that. This is second leg. In this, we will be covering a couple of videos and totally we will be having 100 plus videos in our current jokes. So that will help precisely the civil services preliminary examination. And in these 3 months, that is in the month of June, July and August, we have tried to cover as many topics as possible, and it has become very difficult to find very relevant topics for the UPSC because throughout these 3 months, like everywhere, Corona news was there. So that is why we have taken very relevant and very appropriate articles for the current jokes. So in this series, we will be doing other sections also, but now we will be doing the science and technology topics. In science and technology topics, already we have done the space topics. Now we will be doing the topics related to information communication and technology. So let us look into these topics first. First topic will be the World Digital Competitiveness Ranking. So ranking for anything has become very important as far as the digital preparedness is concerned. And second topic is edge computing. Third is like WANI, that is Wi-Fi Access Network Interface. And fourth one is Wi-Fi calling, which is a new feature that is coming up. And the dark fiber, this is with respect to the infrastructure laid for the telecommunication. And sixth is neons. This is the virtual human beings that a few companies have been successful in creating, and xenobots. So these are the programmed tissue or organs that we have created. So these are the very important topic that will be dealing in this particular session. So first of all, we'll go to the World Digital Competitiveness Ranking. So whenever we talk of any digital mission or with respect to country, if you take Digital India Mission, so what is the importance of this? We are trying to transform our economy, which is based on digital. So basically here, our readiness and our knowledge with respect to digital things, and also with respect to our competitiveness and our future programs into the digital world, that become important. So that is why the report or with respect to the index that has come up for world digital competitiveness, that has become very important. This is not just for the countries, it is also for the business people, because they want to make right investment into some countries. So even some governments want to have a strategic deal, or with respect to the hardware and software, like they want to have a proper bilateral relations. So even for that, this competitiveness index or the report will help. And also even for the general public also, like it will help in the march towards digitization. So in this one, like what all are the important points that we have to see? This measures our capacity and readiness for the digital transformation. So whether we have the capacity to go for the digitization. So especially with respect to infrastructure, this ranking gives some rank. Then with respect to readiness, it is with respect to the knowledge orientation towards the digitization, or the mechanisms through which we implement the digitization, and also how our programs have been planned for the future in that particular section. So this is what is assessed in this ranking. So it is applicable to the businesses, governments, and even the people or the wider society. So this has components of business and government and also the general public. Then this is to evaluate the economy. As I told, the digitization or Digital India Mission, it is for the transformation of the economy, which is based on knowledge or which is based on the digitization. So that is what is checked here, and it examines 3 different factors. The very important factor is knowledge. Knowledge, it is about the capacity to understand digitization, whether the general public or the governments or the business carrying people, whether they have been accommodated to this knowledge or not. That has been checked in this particular index. And the second component is technology. Technology, that is the competence that they have. Like, what is the competency that they have in the digitization? Maybe it is with respect to business, maybe it is with respect to the government affairs. So how they are carrying out the digitization, that has been ranked here. The first one is knowledge and second one is technology, how they are being adapted to the technology in many affairs. So that has been checked. Then future plans or the future readiness, how we are ready for accommodating the new things. For example, every year we come across like 2.0, 3.0, like that. The digitization is happening. Industrial revolution, right from 1.0 to 4.0 now. Now, the telecommunication is from 2G to 5G now. So whether we are ready to accommodate all these changes, all these upgradation and updations, so that is also very important for checking the readiness or the competitiveness. So these three are checked here. And as far as the ranking is concerned, first one is US. So US competitiveness is very high. Then comes Singapore and Sweden. When it comes to India's rank is right now 44th, and it has got a jump of 4 places. Earlier it was at the place of 48 and now it is 44. So 44 out of 63 economies, like, it is not a very good thing. So whatever that we had thought of or dreamt of with respect to Digital India Mission, that has to become reality today. It is not just about hype making, or it is not just about chest thumping. We have to get better into all these three factors. One is knowledge, that is how well we are equipped with respect to understanding the digitization, even at the grassroots level. That is very important. Then second thing about the technology, what technology we are adapted to. So even that has to be checked. And what all our future plans or the readiness for the upgradation or for the new things or the new versions, that has to be made very robust. So then only our ranking can be bettered. So the very important facts that you have to know: India's rank and which country is first, second, third. And the third thing is the factors on which this ranking is done. So that is what we have to look into this. The next topic is edge computing. Edge computing. So whatever the types of computing that are coming up in our daily affairs, so they become very important, because in the past in UPSC we have seen the questions with respect to supercomputing, questions with respect to cognitive computing, questions with respect to quantum computing, they have come in the examination. So whatever the new computing technique that has come, we have to learn about it. Here, this is edge computing. Edge computing, it is nothing but having the processing units, processing units at the edge. At the edge means the place where the interaction happens between the consumer and with the system. Usually what happens if you imagine one retail shop, let's say retail supermarket. So this is the end system. Where the consumers interact, Then it is connected to the central database. So like this, many are connected to this central database, and the processing will happen here. And the needful or the meaningful results are conveyed to this edge systems. So these are the systems which are at the edge, which are in the direct interface with the consumers or the clients. So central processing or the centralized processing is discouraged in this one, because for everything, for every input and for every output, there has to be a consumption of bandwidth, and we need lot of bandwidth. If the processing is happening somewhere here only with a little control from the centralized processing unit, so we can save this bandwidth. And the speed at which the processing happens, so that is also very high. So that is why the edge computing is coming into picture, especially for all the centralized processing units. Now the decentralization is happening. So let us look into some of the facts that are associated with edge computing. So it is a part of distributed computing topology. This is the topology what we tell, that is from the client side to the central processing side. So like how they are connected. So that is called as topology. That is an engineering term. You need not worry about that engineering term. So it talks about the distributed computing topology, where the information is processed at the edge level or at the end level or at the leaflet level. The information is processed. So it will avoid the traffic. It will avoid the traffic which is going to the centralized system, and also with respect to the bandwidth they are consuming, so it will be less. So as far as the cost cutting is concerned, or the swiftness of the data processing that happens, and how early you can give it to the clients, so that becomes very important here. Then the other thing is it doesn't rely on the central processing. So that can be miles away. That is what we have talked. So the traffic is avoided, or the bandwidth that we consume will become less, and the swiftness with which the data is processed, so that also becomes very high. And here we can process the real-time data rather than taking the real-time data into one register and sending that to the data processing unit, which is far away. So that becomes a cumbersome process and a very lengthy process, and it will be having a lot of latency also. To avoid latency and to consume less bandwidth, so edge computing is the new technique that has come. And in addition to this, like the companies which are relying upon this, they can do the cost cutting, especially in the COVID time. Like all the companies are trying to cost cut, and they are coming up with the processes or the mechanisms through which they can cut the cost cutting, and they use lesser bandwidth, and the latency problem is also solved. So basically edge computing, rather than the centralized processing that is happening, we are taking the processing towards the edge or at the leaflet, or where the clients communicate with the front office. So rather than taking everything to the back office, so this is kind of a decentralization that is happening in the computation. So this is what we have to know about edge computing. The next thing is about WANI. About WANI, this is Wi-Fi Access Network Interface. So before going to the nitty-gritty of this particular topic, I'll be explaining you what exactly is this. For example, if you have a connection, if you have a mobile connection, let's say Airtel is a office, but if you want to subscribe to Airtel, or if you want to take the connection of Airtel, do you directly go to the Airtel head office to purchase? No. So basically you will depend upon the retailers. You will depend upon the retailers, where they can sell you, for example, the currency. For example, 1 month recharge, they can give you that currency. So basically, this is how the mobile communication has been distributed. But when it comes to Wi-Fi, basically we don't find any retailers. So definitely we have to depend upon the centralized marketers or the big players who are there into the Wi-Fi network. So basically in this process also, instead of this mobile connection, if you put this Wi-Fi, so what will happen? You need not depend upon the Wi-Fi provider. So you can purchase on the need basis. You can purchase, let's say 20 rupees pack or 50 rupees pack, maybe 5 GB, maybe 10 GB. You can exhaust that, and you can just halt the process, or you can go for a new one. So like that, even the retailers, maybe the small shopkeepers like tea vendors, or maybe like some fruit vendors, or maybe the medical shops, so they can have the Wi-Fi connection, or they can purchase the Wi-Fi from the big players, and they can sell it on retail basis. So this is what is being tried in WANI, or Wi-Fi network access network interface. So let us look into some of the facts associated with WANI. So here the small entrepreneurs and the shop owners can set up Wi-Fi hotspots. So you can pay on need basis, or on the requirement basis. You can pay them and get the shorter packages, rather than depending upon them for a month or a year. You can just purchase it on the need basis. So here what happens, the bandwidth is acquired by these retailers from the big players. So it is completely kind of a disaggregation. In the world of aggregators, we are talking of disaggregation of the Wi-Fi provision. So here what happens? So the larger bandwidth usage will be stopped because you will do it on need basis, and the unnecessary costs you are paying without using the Wi-Fi, so that can be avoided. So it is a disaggregation process that is happening, and it will allow one user to switch into any Wi-Fi network. So on need basis, for example, you are walking for 1 kilometer and you have got the Wi-Fi connection from a small shop, and you have paid him for the Wi-Fi connection. Maybe after 200 meters, like you want to stop, and there will be a medical shop. Maybe you are accessing the Wi-Fi of that medical shop and you are paying that person. So what happens? You can switch from one Wi-Fi network to another Wi-Fi network. So that is also possible with this one. So you need not go for the like heavily paid access for the Wi-Fi networks. Then other important things are, this is basically the delinking process from the networks. Delinking process, like from one network to another network, you can switch. Maybe the example what I had taken, the first Wi-Fi package provider, maybe he might be having the Wi-Fi connection from Airtel. Maybe the next medical shop from where you are accessing, that person may be from a different service provider. So you can switch from one Wi-Fi service provider to other also in this WANI or the network access interface. Then as far as the process is concerned, as I told, this is a disaggregation process, or it is a unbundling process. Unbundling. So basically, rather than giving it from the big wholesalers, you are purchasing it from the small retailers. So it is nothing but disaggregation, or one way it is the decentralized Wi-Fi provision. So this is what we have to know about WANI, and whatever we have discussed so far is under WANI 1.0, WANI 1.0. In WANI 2.0, it is not just about the connection between the service provider and the end user. Even in WANI 2.0, here the IoT, that is Internet of Things, will come into play, and these WANI providers or the interface providers that can provide the interface for the different objects in a far, not very far places. The places in vicinity, they can access to these interfaces. So the object which are coming under Internet of Things, they can use this WANI on the need basis. So that is the next step into this WANI. So right now we are into the stage WANI 1.0. Now WANI 2.0 is the future thing. The next important topic is Wi-Fi calling. Wi-Fi calling. So right now, whatever the calling that we have, it is the calling, that is the voice calling that we do, voice calling, and the internet calling that we do. And from where we get the connection? We get the connection from the internet service provider or telecommunication service provider. So basically there are two types of calling right now. One is internet calling and another one is normal, our cell calling or phone calling, which is provided by the telecommunication companies. In this Wi-Fi, what happens? Like if you are under one Wi-Fi network and another person you are trying to reach is under another Wi-Fi network, you can call them over Wi-Fi only. So it is voice over Wi-Fi. It is not just about the speedy internet for image or video. Even you are sending your voice over Wi-Fi. So in our handsets only, there will be a enabler. There will be one enabler where we have to enable the Wi-Fi calling. Wi-Fi calling, definitely it will be charged on the consumption basis, but it is a new technology that is coming where we are doing away with the normal phone calling or the normal internet calling, but we are depending upon the Wi-Fi calling. So let us look into the aspects of this Wi-Fi calling. Here we can send the text messages or the voice messages over Wi-Fi connection. Just you need to have one Wi-Fi connection and the Wi-Fi enabler in your phone. So Wi-Fi calling can be used just about any Wi-Fi internet connection, but both the users, that is the caller and the receiver, both should be having this internet connection. And when it comes to the comparison with the traditional communication, so traditional communication, they depend upon the towers. They depend upon the towers. If the tower is not there in a particular area, then there will be a call cut or there will be a call drop. So in this Wi-Fi, if the Wi-Fi is of decent speed also, there will not be any kind of cut, because there will be an uninterrupted service from the Wi-Fi. But while you are calling from the normal telecommunication towers usage, then there will be chance of the call delay or call cut or call drop. Then with respect to Wi-Fi calling, one must be having the Wi-Fi connection, and there should be the enabler in the phone that we are using under the Wi-Fi network. And here phone automatically won't transfer from Wi-Fi to mobile. For example, if you are calling from Wi-Fi, then the whole call has to be connected in Wi-Fi only. In case of drop in the Wi-Fi, it cannot switch over to the mobile communication or mobile signal. So that has to be kept in mind, because here the pure uninterrupted service of Wi-Fi is required. So there will not be auto interchangeability between the mobile signal and the Wi-Fi signal. Then other aspects that we have to know in this ICT current affairs, that is the dark fiber. When we talk of fiber, this fiber is nothing but optical fiber or whatever that we call OFC. So optical fiber communication, where we have the cable inside, there will be core, and above it the cladding will be there, and here total internal reflection is the technology which is used. So here I am not to explain this one, but the dark fiber, when we talk of, so this is basically the fiber which is dark. That means, like, it is not the color of the fiber, but the utility of the fiber. So far this fiber has not been used. So that is just lying like that. Just if you can imagine some of the pipelines without any water connection, or if you can think of some of the roads which have been built into some layouts without proper connection to the highway. So these are the disjuncted, or these are the disconnected fibers which have been built with the notion that they will be used in the future. So similarly, some of the telecommunication companies have already laid the fibers but without use. Those fibers are not in use. So this dark fibers, let's say, this is how they are, like these are the disjuncted, let's say. And let's say someone puts up a company here, and his end users are here. What he can do is, this disconnected dark fibers he can utilize at some cost. And he can get it connected to the clients. So this is how the dark fiber is used. In this dark fiber, like what all we have to know, it is the lightless fiber. That means, like, any kind of communication or the optical communication that is not happening through this. So without activating this, they are just lying dead. They are lying dead because nothing has been happening, but the laying has been done by one service provider, just keeping the future in mind. And here we can utilize this for the transmission of data. And with respect to the utilization of this, so the private companies or the future oriented networks, so they can be built over this dark fiber. So basically these are for rental, and that can be connected by any kind of end user or the enabler. Then because of the widespread of networks, now, like, every time you might have seen the roads are dug for laying the optical fibers. If you can visualize the situation around 8 to 10 years back, so there were situations like where the roads used to be dug, the roadsides used to be dug for laying the optical fibers. So some of the companies have built them keeping the future in mind, but some of the companies might not have the infrastructure, or they might not have put their own cables. So what they will do, they will use, or they will take the dark fiber on rent, on rent, and they will utilize it for whatever the period that they have agreed for. Then the other thing is the last mile connectivity, what I have marked here, the last mile connectivity, that has to be done by the user, like the user who is paying for this dark fiber. So he is going to use it, and definitely if like he has to construct this, or he has to get it done by someone on contractual basis, so that is a different business model they will adopt to, but this end connection has to be connected. Then what all are the benefits that we have here? The unlimited bandwidth, because the bandwidth that these optical fibers carry, so this is seamless, and like the bandwidth that we can carry here, it is like huge in number, huge in width, and also with respect to the swiftness or the speed with which the data is transmitted, so that is also at a very good speed here. Then with respect to the scalability, yes, with the dark fiber present around, so we can easily scale, because just we have to do the last mile connectivity, that's it. Then with respect to the control, so basically this is completely under the control of this unit. Let's say this is unit A and its clients. So here you are not bothered by the service providers. Because you are using their dark fibers and you are building your own network. You are not depending upon their service anymore. So this is the thing that we had to see under dark fiber. Then the next topic is neons. Neons is a very important thing, or the very novel creation that has been done. So this neon, nothing but this is a new human. It is new, or neo, and human. Neo, human. So neo here and n from here. So neon. So this is not to be misunderstood with the robots. These are the virtual persons. These are the virtual creation. So only you can see them virtually. They look like the normal human beings, but they are not physically present. They are completely virtual. You can see them only in the screens or computers. Then these are being called the world's first artificial humans. So these are created virtually, not to be misunderstood with the robots. So these are the world's first artificial humans, and they look and behave just like the human beings, and they can also develop memories and emotions in the future. Right now what we have created, so that is only with respect to the physical presence, but with respect to memory and emotions, like in the next version, maybe that is possible. Then this is how the word has been derived from neo plus human, new human being, and they are intelligent enough to be fully autonomous. So you cannot expect any kind of physical works from them. Physical works are not possible because they are virtual. Maybe with respect to some of the communication, maybe the voice, maybe with respect to the audio visual, so they can react. Maybe they can show emotions in the future, and they can have some memory. They will also have some learning skills, and these are all the possibilities. But at this stage, right now, we don't have these versions that they can have memory and emotions. And what all the technologies that we have used here? So the technology that has been used here is Core R3 and the rendition engine. You need not worry about this at all. It is for the mentioning, that's it. So these are very complicated technologies, and for our preparation, these are immaterial to us. So don't worry about this right now. Then the other things, like what all the actions that they can do. So they can handle queries at bank. So basically you are giving the input of your voice, like you are asking certain question, and you are asking the answer from that. So instead of having a particular person there, if you are question is fed, and if your question is among the most asked questions or frequently asked question, it can reply in the normal voice or the real-time voice only, and you can ask them in any reception jobs, like maybe like welcoming at restaurant rather than having a physical person, and also with respect to some audiovisual help, you can ask them to do. So this is the stage where we have reached with respect to the creation of the artificial human beings, that is through neons. Don't get confused with the robots. The last topic meant for this session is xenobots. Xenobots, again, don't get confused with any kind of robots here, or don't get confused with the new virtual human beings here. Xenobots are different. They are the novel living machines. Novel living machines, they will be in the shape of tissues, but they are programmed. They are programmed in such a way that they will carry out certain functions. And mainly this is used in the medicinal field for the drug delivery, precise drug delivery. They have been used. Then they are neither like traditional robot or not a species of animal. This is somewhere the hybrid species, where we are programming some of the tissues or organs, and these are called as the new set of artifacts. New set of artifacts, you can call them the living or programmable organ. So they are not completely human organ system. They are not the robots. They are just like the programmed living tissues or programmed organs. Then what all are the uses of them? What all are the uses of them? We can use them in the conditions where the human beings cannot perform. For example, cleaning up the radioactive waste. So depending upon the inputs that xenobots get, so even the cleaning up of the radioactive waste can be done, and the cleaning up of the microplastics in the oceans, that can be done through these things, and they can carry the drug delivery, or the precise drug delivery to particular organs can be done from this particular creation that is called as xenobot. And they can survive in the aqueous medium also. They can survive in aqueous medium, and as far as their pollution is concerned, it is completely pollution free, and like they are environment friendly. They are environment friendly and safer for the human health. So basically we are programming some of the organs or tissues for the benefit of the human beings. Maybe it is with respect to drug delivery, or it is with respect to the microplastic pollution control, or with respect to the other services like the cleaning up of radioactive waste. We can use the xenobots. Just have the fair idea about these xenobots, like these are the programmable organs. And with respect to neons, what we have seen, they are the artificial human beings. So this is what you have to know. Along with this, try to do the robots part, like what all are the robots that we have recently which are in the news. Try to do them. So this is about our like second leg of the information and communication technology current affairs. So in the forthcoming session, we will be having some more current affairs in the second leg, which is the continuation of the older 90 videos what we had. So totally you will be having around 100 plus videos at your disposal, which will be a very relevant material that will be having at your hand as far as the civil services preliminary examination is concerned. So until then, read well, revise well, and do prepare well. Thank you very much, and all the best.